Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. We have talked to a lot of smart marketers, a lot of smart business owners, a lot of smart entrepreneurs, but this is going to be a rare treat. I have Mr. Casey Stanton of CMOX, and he has figured out a marketplace to connect buyers and sellers, givers and getters, and we're going to dig into all of that wonderfulness with the world of fractional CMOs. Casey, welcome to the show.
Hey, David. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I am really, really excited about your business model, and just having stalked you digitally a little bit in preparation for our interview. There's all kinds of fun things that we'll talk about. To get started, tell us about the professional journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way?
Great. So I grew up in a small town in northern Michigan, up near Traverse City, just north of Traverse City in the town of Sutton's Bay.
The cherry capital of the world, by the way.
Absolutely. Somehow the state of Oregon or Washington produces more cherries, but we won't let them have the title. I will defend those cherry queens till the day I die.
Very nice.
So I'm from a small town. I went to Michigan State and I got a degree in environmental policy, and I barely got that degree. I mean, I really had to beg one of my professors to like give me a C just so I could pass. I didn't even know if I'd walk, honestly, the day that my parents were in town for graduation. And when I graduated in 2008 into the housing crisis, and it was impossible to find work. And I had a job that I almost got at Canon, where I was going to sell copy machines door to door, and it fell through. I feel like they gave it to the wrong candidate. I still am kind of bitter about it. I think I could have done a great job, but it was a blessing in disguise because, how long would it have taken me to get my first paycheck, buy a new car, get a rental, get an apartment or something in Novi or in, the Detroit area, only to probably lose the job because the housing crisis got worse and worse and people were out of work. So I ended up moving back into my folks' house, into the basement, as every college kid has the biggest nightmare of. And I'm down there and I'm like, what am I going to do for work? I call a guy I used to know from the fire department when I was a firefighter, and he offered to let me mow lawns. So I sat on the back of lawnmowers in northern Michigan, which is one of the most picturesque things I've ever done. The mornings that look like a Rothko out on the water with the beautiful colors. And I was just there, just doing my straight lines and really enjoying the peace and solitude. And then I decided after a little while that I probably should learn something. And I went to the library in Sutton's Bay and I picked up some Tony Robbins tapes and I ripped them and stuck them on my iPod. It was an iPod Touch at the time. And nice. I would just listen to courses and content, and I was just learning. And there was just something about this guy, Dan Kennedy, that just hooked my interest. And I don't know if it was like his directness or the amount of money he claimed he made, or maybe just like kind of how sour and kind of pissed off he always seemed. But there was something about Dan that I just was attracted to, something about this idea of what he was doing. Yeah. And later I moved down to Ann Arbor, lived in my sister's basement, rented from her just outside of the stadium. And I picked up my first client, some of my first clients down there with doing marketing stuff. I helped one guy who had a digital product, and I did copywriting and media buying for him. So I worked under the tutelage of a really solid copywriter. And the first thing I was given to learn was Perry Marshall's Definitive Guide to Google AdWords. And that was a 3-ring binder. It's one of those $297 3-ring binders that walks you through every page, which was outdated, 6 months after it came out because the UI changed, but still it taught me the basics. So then I started buying ads for this guy, and I got to travel the world while I was doing it. I took actually a 4-month bike trip from Madrid to Rome with my girlfriend from college. And while I was doing that, I was just working online, and I kind of cracked that code of being location independent. being able just to travel, and had a blast doing it. That guy, that client of mine, found out when I was in Italy. I had to hike up from where we were staying, the hostel, up to the library in this small town. And I sat outside because they were closed because it was at night because of the time zones. And there was a sound that happened. I was like sitting there, laptop, headphones in, and it was like the puttering of a like weak 4-cylinder engine up a hill. And the guy I was working with, David, said, "Casey, it sounds like one of those European cars struggling to get up a hill." And I said, "David, I want to tell you something. For the last 4 months, I've been bicycling across Europe, and I'm flying home next week. And you're right, I'm in this town in Italy, and that's exactly what just happened." And he was shocked, and I was thrilled that like I could finally, tell him what I was up to. I flew home and landed back in Michigan and tried to figure out what I was going to do next. I went out on a date because the relationship on the bike ride didn't work out, and bumped into a guy because that date wasn't going well. Bumped into a guy, and he was an agency owner, and he effectively made me an offer to join his agency. So for like the next 7 years or so, I worked at a marketing agency called Tech Guys Who Get Marketing. Great agency, smart people. And it was that intersection of technology and marketing that was really interesting. So I got to work on all sorts of projects. Mike brought me into all sorts of cool stuff like Tony Robbins, Salesforce.com. I got to work on the front end marketing strategy for that. When Jordan Belfort did The Wolf of Wall Street and he sold his story, he couldn't make money on that story though, right? Because he's a felon. You can't profit from a felon like that. So he wanted to sell something alongside of the Scorsese film that was coming out. So we worked together with some great copywriters to come up with the straight line persuasion system offer and position that. And we sold a ton of it and he made a bunch of money. So I got to be in those spaces. And I also got to get into some masterminds and learn from business owners in all sorts of different niches and industries, just how marketing works. And I had a ton of fun doing it. I was in things from product launches to just like kind of boring HVAC businesses, which are lovely, to supplement businesses, book launches. I helped Peter Diamandis launch his first book, Abundance. I was kind of like the guy in the back seat during that one. But then his second book, Bold, I wrote every line of copy, just about every line of copy on the website for the launch of that. And that was a New York Times bestseller. So I got to learn a lot from all of these folks who kind of like trusted me in their business. And then ultimately, as I was getting married and thinking about what to do, I decided that I needed to leave the agency and go off on my own. And I'll just share, David, the thing that I noticed for me was that I enjoyed the revenue that I was getting at the agency when I was doing consulting work. Consulting was fun. I found like kind of falling to that Dan Kennedy principle of consulting. He has a visual that I love. He says, when I consult with people, I have a yellow legal pad with all the notes on it. And then after I'm done with it, I put it in a Ziploc, I seal it, and I stick it in my freezer, and I don't take it back out until our next call. And that was a constraint that Dan created that I then wanted to create in myself, which is like, I don't want to be the guy who's working on the project day in and day out. I want to be the guy who has the strategic insight that's really, really useful that people keep coming back for more of, but it doesn't just like take all of my mental thought days, nights, weekends.
Yes.
So the consulting was fun, but consulting is short-lived. Almost by definition, consultants really don't work with companies more than 3 months or 6 months. I mean, rarely does a consultant stick around for 12 months. Also, teams don't like consultants because a consultant comes in, tells you what to do, and then says, you should probably figure it out, but I got to go. I got paid. And then they leave, and now the team's kind of worse off, and they spend a bunch of money on a consultant. And what I found was that they needed me there longer term, but I didn't want to do the labor. And I tried to like figure out what that title was, and I realized it was the chief marketing officer. And instead of me being the chief marketing officer full-time, I just wanted to have a couple clients that I was the CMO of. And that's what I did. So in 2018, I started my business, CMOX, just celebrated the 7th year of buying the domain, and built the company.
Do you remember, I'm just curious, because that's a fantastic domain name. You remember what you paid for it?
So I bought CMOX.co just before I got married. So it must have been maybe December or January of like 2016, 2017. I bought the .co for whatever the fee was, $17, $11, something like that. Sure. I bought CMOX.com 18 months ago or so for $10,000.
Wow, good for you. That's great.
Yeah. And the domains are funny. And we point the .com to the .co.
Sure.
And I want to move it to the .com, but you get it, right? There's a risk when you do that because of the SEO
Totally
kind of implications.
Yeah.
So I just want to wrap this story up. So I was doing fractional CMO work and selling my services, and I had a couple fractional CMO clients where I was making a big impact, and I was just leading the marketing strategy and being the leader in the company who was like bringing in the team and pushing people forward. But I wasn't doing the labor of writing the emails, building out the tools, etc. We had other people in the company doing that.
Yeah.
And what I found, like, it was the best way for the money to go in the business. So there's money for me as the strategist and leader, but more than left over for people to get the work done. And if I was the full-time CMO, I would have necessarily charged more, likely double the rate. And I don't think they would have gotten the value out of that double, because I'm not the best copywriter. I'm not the best content writer. I'm not the best technical SEO person. I'm not the guy who wants to be building funnels. I'm just not very good at that stuff.
And you want to put the legal pad in the freezer.
I do, right. Like I want to, so the term that I have is I want to solve bigger problems.
Yeah.
That's where I want to be. I want to be elevated to solving the big problems, and then I want to delegate everything except leadership. And then I want to spend my time predicting the future.
Yeah.
If I do those three things, I offer the highest value, and I can shrink the hours that I work for the client and give them the biggest value so they can spend more money on the people to do the work, or the AI tools to do the work, or even more importantly, the media buying. Because we know the truism that the company that can afford to spend the most money to acquire the customer wins.
Yeah.
David, if you could spend $1,000 to get a customer and I could spend 500, you're just going to buy all the customers before I even get out of bed.
Right.
You're going to beat me at the game. So you want to have in the marketing department, you want to have as low of an overhead as possible. But with the complexity of marketing today, you need a CMO. Things are just tricky. Like, where do I spend money? Where should I put the budget first? What should it cost for us to do this? Is this a reasonable amount of time for things? You want the CMO to surmise the right solution for you. I call that a die on the hill marketing strategy. One that they could present to any other CMO, and the CMOs would be like, that's actually the right answer, right? That's where you want to be. And then you just want the execution done by smart people. And I like those people all around the world, or local to you if it matters, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the last thing here is, when COVID came around, it was March 11th, was when Philadelphia, maybe you remember, had a lockdown. My birthday's the 10th. So I remember this plainly, right? I went out with my wife for my birthday, and then March 11th, lockdown, boom, I couldn't leave. And I got calls from all my buddies, and they were like, hey man, did you lose all of your business too? And I said, oh no, I didn't lose anybody. The clients stayed with me through COVID. I lost one ultimately, but they were just kind of like, their business was just shifting, and it was like, I was going to lose them anyways. But I didn't lose anyone from COVID.
It's amazing.
And what's interesting is they needed me, because like they couldn't lose the strategist. If I was the full-time CMO, they probably would have let me go. But because I was the fractional CMO, I stuck around. They needed the strategy, and they needed the leadership. They needed that one throat to choke for all things marketing.
Right.
So I was that guy. And then people came to me and said, hey, would you hire me into your company? And I played that game, David, as you know, like, do I want to hire them, or do I want to teach them what I'm doing?
Yes.
And ultimately, these marketers don't want to work for me. They have been working for people their whole life. They want to have multiple clients. They want to make great revenue, but they don't want to be like my employee.
Right.
So I decided to teach, and that's when I launched the CMO X Accelerator, which is to teach people how to be a fractional CMO.
Yeah.
And that's been, the passion that I've had. So I currently am a fractional CMO for a couple companies. I have a ton of fun. Happy to talk about that. And then also I train marketers to be fractional CMOs. And then we offer placement into organizations that want a fractional CMO.
Well, that's in my introduction. That's what I was saying about finding the buyers, the sellers, connecting. There's always, I feel there's always money to be made when you can connect two halves of a market, right? Buyers and sellers, positives and negatives, whether it's a dating app, whether it's CMOX, whether it's any of these things, podcast matching service, for example.
Totally. The two-sided markets that's a strong place to be.
Yes, it really is. Hey, super quick station break question. Have you seen our free executive briefing on elevating your CEO brand? Check it out right now at doitmarketing.com/webinar. And now back to the show. So you've written 2 books. One book called Find Your CMO. That is for the business owners
Right.
who want to come to you as a clearinghouse and a hiring resource, and one for marketers, which is those folks that you just mentioned. They want to become fractional CMOs like you, and that book is called The Fractional CMO Method.
That's right.
I'm curious, because you and I both believe that part of Market Eminence is having the go-to book in your industry. What or who led you to write these 2 amazing books, and what was your book publishing journey like?
Oh, that's a fun question. So the first one, the fractional CMO method, people ask me, like, should I write a book? And I'm a believer, David, that you should write a corpus of content. I call it in the accelerator core content. Like, there's the core content that you have in your business. Every business has core content. If you do oil changes, there's core content that you should write. You should probably write it once. How often do you need an oil change? Should you use synthetic, or should you use natural oil? What about the filters? Like, there's just like core content that you can create once and create the definitive guide on it.
Yeah.
And then once you create that, your team, outsourced folks, AI can create derivative content of that kind of forever. And they can update it with, they can find related stuff, like they can newsjack. So an example of newsjacking is, I can say, I don't know if you heard, but Google is doing an early buyout program for 25,000 workers because they're moving towards AI in a specific discipline or industry inside of Google's business. 25,000 workers. Well, I can take that and give that to AI with my book and say, write me something about this. And then I'll go in and edit it and make it into my voice. Right. But you can create then useful content for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that when I got started, but when I wrote the fractional CMO method, I didn't know everything I was talking about. I had a lot of it, but I had a lot of orphan thoughts that weren't connected.
Yeah.
And as you know, like, the act of writing is mostly just like learning for yourself, like how it's all related.
Totally.
And for me, it was really difficult on the first book, like very difficult, because I was just like stretching my brain. I wanted a big whiteboard. I wanted Post-it notes. And I just was like, I didn't have the space in my life for that. Because we were just like where we were living and everything. It just like, I just needed more space. Like, I really just wanted a room with whiteboards and everything where I could just kind of be like a polymath for, a couple hours a day. And I didn't have that. So I found it difficult. I had hired a ghostwriter to help me, and I had recorded a bunch of audios and videos and stuff, and we pulled that together and kind of laid out a structure. And they just did a terrible job. And I spent a lot of money, $20,000 or $30,000 on that ghostwriter. And it was just terrible. I mean, the book opened up with this terrible story that was like, they just invented it. And I just like had such a block, David, for like weeks. I couldn't read it. It just felt so gross, It's like I just wanted to throw it away. So this whole like write drunk, edit sober, the edit sober part is hard.
Yes.
And it took everything I had really to kind of squeeze it out. And it was a really big pain. And I didn't like the process. It was cathartic at the end when it was launched, but man, I didn't like it. So I decided to kind of do a pseudo self-publishing route. I worked with a publisher, and that helped me because I wanted to ultimately go for the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. And I was able to get the ebook there through our launch. So that was fun to be able to hit that list. But the publisher didn't help at all, like literally zero. They retained the rights for the book until this summer, and then I'll get the rights back so I can update it and relaunch it.
Right.
So that was really frustrating. I ended up finding a woman on Upwork who did all of the formatting for the PDF and the Mobi so I could get the digital files.
Yeah.
I found a local like musician recording studio and went there with my iPad and like an iPad tripod stand and just read the book and was able to create the audiobook. So that was a great experience. And then I started selling it. And it's been selling really well. It sells every single day. We sell at least one copy on the website, also on Amazon and wherever else, Audible, etc. I'm getting downloads every month. Libraries are buying it, so people are like checking it out. So like that's really exciting to see. And one thing I want to say that I didn't think would happen. I had no idea this would happen because the name is Fractional CMO Method. when you searched for fractional CMO, there was a rich snippet that showed the book. So it was like, you're searching for this book, right? So just by having the book, I owned really the first page of Google's results because we had a top listing for SEO,
Yeah.
but then and an ad, and then we had the full right side rich snippet. The rich snippet is less common right now because they're changing. Google, I think, is changing what they believe the intent is of the search. But man, I tell you, that was nice when that happened.
How about that? So inside of that book, you are teaching marketers, consultants, maybe even, people looking for a second career, third career, next chapter of their life. You're teaching them the business side of being a fractional CMO, and also a CMO framework of how to be a CMO. And I'm guessing part of that is how to maintain that strategic leadership level without getting sucked in to doing the tactical work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally what it is. And the subhead for the book is how to attract, convert, and serve high-paying clients on your terms.
Nice.
And the on your terms part was important. There was the time after the bike trip when I was working at the agency before I moved here to Philadelphia, where I was living in New Orleans, and then I had an RV and drove around the country for a couple of years with my girlfriend, and then we got married 7 years ago. And that was really important to me. It was to like create a business for me as a marketing person. Like I knew my trick was marketing. I wasn't going to go back to optometry school. I wasn't going to be a mycologist. I wasn't going to be a materials engineer or whatever.
Right.
I was going to be a marketer. So where did I want to be in marketing? I wanted to elevate to the top role in marketing and spend my time doing the things that have the most impact, which is solving bigger problems.
Yes.
And that's the core fundamental idea behind the fractional CMO method.
Yes.
Now, I want to clarify that the term fractional CMO, I think, can get misconstrued, and I think people use it incorrectly. And here's the differentiator. A marketing agency typically, almost exclusively, makes their money on doing work.
Yes.
So you go to an agency and like David, like you've got a solid business, but like maybe you want a new website built. Then you guys don't have the talent for that. You go to the agency, they're like, yeah, we'll build it for you.
Yeah.
But they're probably going to give you some free strategy on the front end. Hey, David, have you thought about moving the call to action here? What do you think about this? This really has to be easy for people to navigate on mobile devices. We have to have the accessibility stuff figured out for the ADA compliance.
Right.
Have you thought about a CDN? Like they have these different things that they're going to kind of give you for free before they do the work.
Yeah.
And my belief is that the agency could peel off that free strategy component and sell that, but it would be a single person doing that.
Yes.
And that person would be the CMO. And that CMO then has like 100% profit margin if they're direct deposited, or 97.1% if they go through Stripe.
Right.
And they're the person that's vying for the client's success, saying, hey, agency, write me up a work order for this.
Yeah.
Let me get another RFP out for this other agency. You guys write it up. Let me figure out which one's best and go with the best one for the client.
Yeah.
Let me hire people internally for the client that the client then pays directly so that the business is stronger. And if I ever leave, the business is strong. If an agency ever detaches from a company, the company's oftentimes worse off because they let go of all their marketing function and gave it to the agency. And then the agency's gone one day and there's no marketing function. There's no SOP. There's no marketing technician that understands it, that works for the client, the company, that keeps things going.
Right.
The fractional CMO is different.
Yeah.
And I think that they can work well together, a fractional CMO working and then bringing in agency partners to do, I think of it as mercenary work.
Yeah.
Come
the
in,
brains
build
in the hands,
hospital.
right? The brains in the hands.
The brains in the hands. Yes, exactly. I want them to like come and build the hospital, train the locals and leave. And I'll pay a premium for that labor.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily want an agency all the time in doing the day-to-day marketing.
Yeah.
That's not the solution to me. I don't think that's right for business owners either, because a decent agency is making 40%, 50% margins. So half your marketing spend in an agency is just going to someone else's profit margin.
Right.
And I believe if you then kept that and were able to spend that on advertising, you'd get a bigger outcome for yourself, for the business, than you would just giving it out to the agency.
Yes.
So I like agency models. I think it's a great model, but the fractional CMO is outside of the agency.
Yeah.
So much so that I think it should be a separate LLC or S Corp or whatever, and they should work with the client with its own retainer, and then the agency can have their own. It's when it's like when an agency packages fractional CMO stuff and sells that as one kind of ball together. I just feel like it's misleading. I don't think it's honest. I think it's actually dishonest. I think it's hurting the company. I don't like it when I hear people say, I'm a fractional CMO agency. You're either an agency or you're a fractional CMO. You're not both at the same time.
Totally. Well, and I'm sure that there are some fractional CMOs that are already up and running. They find you and they're like, oh my gosh, finally, because most fractional CMOs, they find themselves getting sucked into the tactical work and the delivery work, and they hate it. Not because it's not good or it doesn't work. They're tired of that. That's not why they started their fractional CMO business. They started their fractional CMO business to do the strategy and have either an internal team or an agency do the heavy lifting.
That's right. And we can find talent anywhere. As you know, we can find unlimited talent on Upwork in a moment's notice. I can find a really solid media buyer for $25 an hour.
Yeah.
I might pay someone locally their high fees to get the media account set up and maybe run it for a month. But then I'm probably going to bring in a low price overseas media buyer from Serbia or Ukraine or something like that. And then that person's going to just like do the operation stuff. And then maybe I bring in that high powered US based media buyer once a month or once a quarter just to do an overview and just check for things if everything's working well or not.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there.
I want to talk about all the different ways that CMOX serves clients on both sides of the house. And I'd love to start actually with the business owner side of the house, because when we go to the website and we look at services for business owners, you've got services like CMO Engaged, CMO Half Day Consult, CMOX Advisor. Tell us about how those work. And if let's say business owner number one comes to you and says, hey, Casey, I want to hire a fractional CMO. I want the CMO Engaged program. Business owner number two then comes to you the next day. Are those CMOs coming to the client with a defined playbook, process, and system that they have learned from you? Or is it more just a matchmaking kind of thing, and we're not really sure that there's going to be consistency between what these two CMOs would deliver?
Yeah, great question. So there definitely is some magic that each CMO has. So I think of some of our CMOs. We've got some high-powered folks. I can think of a woman who was in a Fortune 500 company as the CMO. I can think of another woman who was the VP of marketing for one of the top chocolate brands. I can think of some guys that are fractional CMOs inside the CMOX community that are like never had the title. Like if they had like a title that was maybe on their job description, it would be like marketing director. But these guys have spent considerable budgets and took the company almost single-handedly from $1 million or $2 million a year to 10 or 15 or 20 million a year.
Yeah.
So we have people with the title experience and people without it. Yeah. We have people with deep CRM or media buying or branding experience. We have people that are story brand certified guides. We have people that came up through the copywriting space. We have funnel hackers or agency owners that are now doing fractional CMO stuff. So the pedigrees are different, but the way that they approach the business follows my functional marketing framework, which is an approach to take a dysfunctional marketing department and turn it into a functional marketing department, where you have a number of things. You have a die-on-the-hill marketing strategy. You have quarterly outcomes that everyone's committed to. Things are done world-class, on time and on budget. So there's like a clear structure that we that I train on, that I hold people to, and it works inside of the EOS model, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Entrepreneur Operating System.
Yeah,
I love EOS, but to me, EOS falls apart once it touches marketing, because it's like, what's your rock for marketing? It's like, what's my rock? How many can I have? You know, because we got to build these landing pages. We got to tie in all this automation. We got to like deduplicate leads. We've got to do lead qualification. We've got to test new traffic sources, run new ads. Like there's so many things we can do in marketing. On sales, it's all right, guys, we got to get 100 sales this month, this quarter. On marketing, it's like, okay, we got to do a lot of stuff. So I've developed the structure that I feel like nests really well inside of the EOS framework, and it's built on a quarterly outcome. So what are the quarterly outcomes that the CMO has to deliver? Because again, they're the one throat to choke for all things marketing. So we want that CMO to know photographically, what is the one thing? If the CEO can take a photograph on the end of the month, March 31st at 5 p.m. Eastern time, they photograph something, what is that thing that the CMO got delivered?
Yeah.
And then it's the CMO's job to find the right people and get them to do the thing. And like that's the general process. And some companies will want to do trade shows. Some will go through a rebrand. Some will be launching a product. Some will be, some of my favorite businesses are like kind of boring, dumb businesses, you know, like machined parts.
Yeah.
They just have big clients that, you know, oftentimes one client is 50% of all of their billings or something.
Yeah.
The CMO's job might be to do marketing related activities to generate enough deal flow so they can close another one client of that size. So now the company grew by 50% just by having one deal.
That's right.
Or it de-risks them. So it's always going to be a little different. Is it a direct to consumer? Is it B2B? And we've got hundreds of CMOs with all sorts of experience.
And tell us a little bit about what is on the menu. So what are the investable opportunities that your clients come to you with on the business owner side, like the placement? And what are the investable opportunities for the marketers who want to adopt this fractional CMO model for themselves?
Yeah, great question. So for the business owner, there's really two ways that you should look at it. Do you have a problem that can get solved in like a half day? So maybe 2 weeks of prep, emails, the CMO's asking for data, asks you what big problems you want to solve. And then you get on the call with the CMO with your leadership team, and then they help you solve the problem. And is that enough?
Yeah.
For some folks, that's enough. Like that's all that they need. I need a really good strategy. We're launching. I need someone to give me second set of eyes. We've had this marketer on the company for 5 years, and I feel like maybe he's lost his edge. Can you proof his work? Like a half-day consult is amazing for that. It's a transaction. It's done when it's done.
Yeah.
I like that for some businesses. On the opposite side of the spectrum is the business. I can think of one, a private equity commercial real estate sponsor I worked with. And they were like, hey, we've got this good marketing team, but we're going to go crazy. Like we're building something really big right now, and we need real marketing leadership. So they brought me in 10 hours a week. And I worked 10 hours a week for them for 26 months. And we went from $500 million in assets to $1.6 billion in assets. It was crazy. We had a ton of fun doing it. And I built a world-class marketing department there. So two different problems to solve. Is it just a strategy they need, or they need someone there with the strategy, leading the team, building the team? I mean, I hired and fired. I was evaluating folks. I mean, it was great. I was going to the quarterly planning meetings every quarter for 8 quarters.
Yeah.
So that's two separate ways to work. So half-day consult or engaged. I think of engaged as like a traditional fractional CMO.
Yeah.
It's funny to say traditional because there's nothing traditional yet about such a nascent offering. But then there's this other one, which we call advisor. So just think, there's a point at which you're working 10 hours a week and you built the team and you have the strategy and everything's off to the races. And that's usually where the consultant gets let go of. They say, David, you did a great job. Thank you so much. We're going to end our contract at the end of the month. But as a marketer, like that doesn't actually help them, because in a month or 2 months or 3 months, they start making bad decisions. And then in a year, they find themselves in a really bad place.
Yeah.
They want someone to advise them.
Right.
So I encourage our CMOs to sell the CMOX advisor level, which drops from engaged to advisor. Yeah. And it's just a softer, less frequent check-in with the team. Every month they're working with the team to lay out outcomes and making sure that they're working inside of sprints and everything. So that's really useful. That advisor offering is also great on the backside of a half-day consult. Sometimes after a half-day consult, it makes sense for the company to want to work with the CMO to get the strategy implemented.
Right.
So instead of hiring them 10 hours a week, they might say, hey, we don't have a marketing department. Or we have one guy and we don't really need you 10 hours a week to manage someone that's working 40 hours a week. That sounds kind of crazy.
Right.
So what you want to have then is you want to have a level that you can drop to with that CMO, where they provide strategy, where they can help write job descriptions, interview candidates, make sure the right people are in the right seats and driving the business forward.
Right. Awesome. And how about on the marketer side or on the consultant side?
Yeah, so for CMOs, anyone who's like curious about being a fractional CMO, we do a pretty simple process of just like a quick phone call at cmox.co/call, and folks can book in 15 minutes to chat with my team, and we'll ask you a couple questions to see if like you've got what it takes to be a fractional CMO. If you do, we'll invite you to a second call where you can ask more questions, really dig in, share your experience, and if we think you're a great fit, we'll offer you to join the accelerator. And the accelerator is a program following this call. I'm on with the members for 60 minutes, but we do 14 to 16 live calls every month. We do big quarterly planning calls for the CMOs to join me so I can help them do quarterly planning for their clients.
Yeah.
We've got calls with breakout rooms where we do sales trainings. We bring in guest experts that teach us what's working right now in the market.
Yeah.
We just have a ton of stuff that's happening, and it is a really fun environment because people are winning, they're landing big clients, and they're finding that their whole career they've been solving bigger problems and small problems.
Yeah.
Right? They've been like coming up with a new strategy to launch a product and also sweeping the floors.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is just spend your time just doing the big things and get rid of the small stuff, pass it on to someone else. If it has to get done, pass it over to someone else to do, and then just exist just in that marketing strategy and marketing leadership role.
Yes. Totally amazing. Really brilliant business model, brilliant strategy. I know that people are going to want to get connected and stay connected to more Casey Stanton brilliance. Where can we go? What links should go in the show notes? What can you leave people with as a gift?
Yeah, great. So I'd love to give copies of both books, digital copies. I have an audio book of the Fractional CMO Method as well. Anyone is welcome to grab. Just shoot us an email. Our email address is grow@cmox.com. That's grow@cmox.com. And in the subject line, just write "Do It Marketing Book Request."
Ooh.
And just send us a quick note saying that you'd like the books from the call, and I'll have my team send you the digital copies.
Awesome. That is incredibly generous. And Casey, as far as connecting with you, LinkedIn, what's your favorite social media? Where are you most active?
Yeah, LinkedIn's great. My name is Casey Slaughter Stanton there. You'll find my stuff. I also have a Facebook group for fractional CMOs. That's cmox.com/community. You can find the Facebook group. We've got about 6,500 fractional CMOs there. I'm also active on Reddit, and I will never share my Reddit username with anyone. I will die with that. That's my special secret.
Nice.
And Facebook. You'll find me on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a rich and deep and valuable conversation. I personally believe that the fractional CMO model that you teach and that you write about is the future of marketing, or it's the future of smart marketing. Let's just say that.
I think with just the rise of AI, it has to be. Like, this is what your competitors are doing. We're approaching this one thing, just my closing thoughts. 1P, 1B, a one person, $1 billion a year business. We're getting closer than ever before to that. I'm not going to create that, right? That's not my thing. There's going to be someone, in their parents' basement that's just coding this stuff, right? And they're just using AI tools and stitching it all together, and they're making a crazy successful company. That's going to happen. And it might take 2 years or 10 years or something for that to happen. But as we get closer to that, we're seeing the number of people in the marketing department necessarily shrink, and it shrinks from the bottom up. If we get rid of strategy and leadership, it doesn't matter what people do below it because they're going to do the wrong thing. Yeah. So you want to have strategy and leadership, and then you want to lose from the bottom up that talent pool and outsource that to AI. And if you don't do it, your competitors absolutely will do it, and you'll be left wondering why you lost market share.
1,000%. 1,000%. Totally love it. Well, my friend, I appreciate you. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.